Remember, Big Brotherhood is always watching. Whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it just so happens to be the lonely housewife that I understand lives a few doors down the street. And I also understand happens to leave her curtains open at night. But who could ever know about that particular detail? You can't prove it's me. Else is a French horror movie currently streaming on Amazon Prime. It was written and directed by Thibault Emin and written by Alice Bataud. If I mispronounce those names, I do apologize. And this features a whirlwind romance between Hans, played by Matthias Sampour, and Cass, played by the very, very attractive Edith Proust. And it's a whirlwind crazy thing going on in Hans's apartment, which has a deliberately 60s, 70s retro aesthetic. I actually really did appreciate that. That actually was a neat little choice. And we just happen to see this apartment complex. We also hear that there are a couple neighbors in this apartment complex or flat complex or whatever they call it over there in whatever French area this is. But then it just so happens that this is during a time when a certain illness is taking hold of society. An illness that is causing various people to link into their environment. If they are on the street, it could link them into the goddamn concrete. They happen to be on their bed, it could be a 300 skin count sheet set, which is really hard to say. It could link you to your phone, where literally you could never hang up on somebody no matter how hard you try. Or it could link you basically to your goddamn window. If you come to that window and you wait for Melissa Etheridge to make a reference for you, come to that window and I'll be holding true. I don't think those are even close to the lyrics. So yes, in French horror fashion, we get some body horror effects, we get some social commentary about societal control, and we basically just have pretty much two actors in this. I mean, we do actually see a little bit of Setsuko, who is played by the equally gorgeous Leika Miyamoto. My God. Google her. Jesus. So anyway, other than that, we pretty much just get a lot of visual cues and some body horror effects and basically just the rapidly descending sanity of Hans and Cass in a film that I liked a lot better when they did it in Together. Now, these are stylistically different. I would argue Together had a bit of a bigger budget. This doesn't look small budgeted by any stretch of the imagination, but there are a few visual choices that seemed a little bit weird. There are some cool set pieces and some neat moments, but this movie also ends up being kind of dull and kind of samey and really doesn't have a whole lot of new stuff to say. It's also very Cronenberg-esque, but not good Cronenberg. More like lazy Cronenberg, where Cronenberg's just kind of coasting on his own goddamn reputation. Neat little ideas. Hans and Cass, actors are fine for what they could do, but there isn't a lot of material to really sink your proverbial teats into. It's on Amazon if you want to check it out. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, yeah, that was kind of an abrupt run into the spoiler section. Really, there's not a lot to spoil in this because we see a lot of news reports of people fusing into their environments, and really we never leave this apartment. Well, we seemingly never leave this apartment until the end. I did note, oh my goodness, Edith as Cass is very attractive. Very attractive. The 60s, 70s aesthetic was pretty cool. And there's clearly something weird going on in one of the apartments nearby where there's a dog that's making noises and references to possible injuries and possible skin stuff going on. There's also a weird guy that's talking to himself on the sidewalk. Yeah, on the sidewalk. I wonder if he's going to become part of that sidewalk. So, Hans does fall head over heels for Cass. You kind of can't necessarily blame him. And then he analyzes stuff from a party where a guy has a weird skin condition and is also reaching into the box of popcorn. So this thing is spreading pretty fast. There's stuff about news, the various things that are going on with people, such as people merging with rocks and merging with other stuff, which honestly looked a lot better than some of the shit we saw a little bit later on. And Cass is so happy to see him, she tackled him. I wish I had a woman that would tackle me like that. And yeah, there's not much really going on besides we find a little bit of information about these particular characters. I did like that she was a screamer, but moving on from that. The old guy, the crazy guy that was yelling earlier, is literally in the road. They dig him out of the road, and that was kind of cool. And now there's a lockdown. Big Brotherhood is watching. Cass ends up basically being forced into his apartment. And yeah, there you go. And that's pretty much where our movie is. The power goes completely out, but somehow they have a generator backup thing with one of those exercise bikes that seemingly was from like an 80s workout video. And yeah, we don't really stop the world while we melt with you. I mean, that's pretty much, I think, only one of the only references somebody could make that would hold water, ironically. And then suddenly there is this weird rock monster. Do, rock monster. He's paving the way for other villains. There's concrete evidence that there may be a problem here. Okay, I'm done. I will be done trying to cement my legacy. So, yeah, they bashed him apart. And basically the idea here is that you heard stuff from, like, Satsuko, but and a couple other people, but you never actually see these neighbors. I mean, you see Satsuko later, which is good, because, my God, the actress playing her. But the idea is you can't look each other in the eye. It's a weird narrative, like, okay, we can't look each other in the eye. It's like a Bird Box thing. Like, we can't do... Not particularly sure this movie knew where it was going. But the idea is like a connection, a body chemistry thing or whatever. It started to lose me, and it never really got me back. Though I will admit that there was a cool moment. With the dog that was making all the noise, they kept hearing it. Oh, it's in the pipes. No, it's actually in the wood that they use. It's actual dogwood. Or it's at least around the wood. This really isn't scary. Like, I mean, it has, again, the visual moments are what they are. We do also find out that Hans had a thing where when he was younger, he lost his mother to a very bad cancer, which kind of becomes an allegory for a little bit later on. He gets rocks dug out of him and recovers, but then suddenly Cass ends up falling, kind of falling into like a deeper sickness, shall we say. I don't, this just kind of spins its wheels after a bit. The plan is to get out, but they aren't able to. They can't stare at each other, and they're supposed to get out on the streets, but Cass ends up locked in the sheets. Now we go to black and white stuff. I don't know if we're deliberately trying to go with, Eyes Without a Face or something, except Eyes Without a Face was a lot better, and a much better French movie. Watch Eyes Without a Face. And now, I don't know where this movie thought it was supposed to be going, because when you lock yourself into one location and you don't have a lot of tension, you just kind of spin your wheels after a bit. So, Satsuko talks about how evolution takes millions of years, and this is just another example of evolution, something about a fish that was able to basically breathe on land. I started zoning out with this because it wasn't particularly interesting. So then he goes into some weird tunnels that kind of look like they're full of pillows. And Cass basically is absorbed fully into this, and she says, I want this to end. At this point, I was agreeing. I wanted this movie to... I did not hate this movie, but it was starting to grate on me. So, yeah, he ends up killing Cass to put her out of her misery. Here's Satsuko. At one point, she splashes him with some weird oil stuff to make sure that he's not infected. Could she splash me next? And I don't have issues, so shut up. And she wants to get out, but she's also blind, I guess. So then they reference Phase 4, but there's no ants. Anybody that gets that, you really love your obscure sci-fi horror. It was like a 1973 or 74 movie. Yeah, escape the dusty place. Follow the signal to safety. Probably eradication, but whatever. There's a little girl that gouged her eyes out. And then he's in the snow. And then evolution occurs. He's melted into the environment. And, okay. That is, that is Else. Interesting idea. So execution. It was what it was. I didn't hate it. It just was kind of there ultimately. C+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Redland. Until we revisit the French horror genre again, happy trails to you.